Jimmy Fallon? Jimmy Fallon.
He hasn't attended the famed White House Correspondents' Dinner since taking office.
Donald Trump is, to borrow a Kobe term, soft as Charmin.
If your regime is not strong enough to handle a joke, then you don't have a regime.
And there are plenty of comedians, like the great Jon Stewart, who feel this way. It truly does say something.
Have you ever wondered what the difference is between the political parties, Democrats and Republicans?
While there are differences, when corporations run the country on many issues, they share similar interests. Or as Lewis Black puts it,
the Democratic Party, which is a party of no ideas, and the Republican Party, which is a party of bad ideas. And the way it works is the Republican stands up in Congress and goes, I got a really bad idea. And the Democrat says, and I can make it.
laughably solid. If you want an honest perspective, lean towards folks like him.
There's not a lot of disagreement because ultimately Ivana does exactly as I tell her to do.
Ah yes, just some good old-fashioned sexism at the forefront of the Republican Party.
Now I do need to say something here. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm going to go easy on you people. I'm going to go easy on you people because my brain is smaller. I'm also the first straight woman to host this in 20 years, so we finally made it, straight people.
Which ex-SNL host Cecily Strong is quick to remind us of.
So who's doing this to our city? Strictly speaking, you know the answer. It's BLM and Antifa, crazed ideologues, grifters, criminals, antisocial thugs with no stake in society and nothing better to do than hurt people and destroy things.
The bigots at Fox News know exactly what they're doing with mass media. Thus,
welcome to a Negro night here at Washington. Or as Fox News will report, two thugs disrupt elegant dinner in D.C. That's how they do it. Sure.
Larry Wilmore rightfully tears them a new one in the way they manufacture consent from their loyal, aging audience.
We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard.
Utter nonsense, which Black explains in his bit.
And now it's worse. We don't have any leaders at all. I finally figured out the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats blow, the Republicans suck. Oh, and you don't like that? Switch it around.
You know, this idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly.
Strong has a pretty nice rebuke to many who saw former President Barack Obama as good but flawed.
A lot of people want Elizabeth Warren to run for president, but many think she's too idealistic and her proposed policies are too liberal. But look at President Obama. I mean, people thought the same thing about him. He didn't end up doing any of that stuff.
I agree. We need to call out hypocrisy in all of its forms, and we need to call out atrocity in all of their forms. I mean, my goodness, if you're going to start calling out atrocities, let's also call out the numerous players, leagues, owners that cozy up to the Black Lives Matter organization that is committed to defunding and demonizing police. If we're going to call out organizations for atrocities, we're going to call out organizations for their wrongdoings. We got to be consistent with all of that.
One of the dumbest and worst commentators out there, Tommy Lauren, has entered the chat.
Oh, by the way, guys, Black Lives Matter is here tonight. I'm just kidding. Relax, white people. They're not here. It's just a joke. Just relax. Just relax. But I am impressed with the people in this room. There are so many rich, powerful people in this room. You know, it's nice to finally match the names to the faces in the Panama Papers. It's very nice, right? You know what I'm saying? It's nice to see them go together.
As Wilmore chides those scared by the movement, he also speaks truth to power. By the way, please, I am begging you, read what he mentioned in that last sentence, because it is eye-opening.
This is the most important election of our times.
This is the most important election of our lifetime.
You say this is the most important election in decades.
Politicians say every time, this is the most important election. This one's really that important.
You shared that you think this is the most important election of your lifetime. I certainly think it's the most important election of my lifetime.
We hear it over and over again. Lewis Black, meanwhile, has a different feeling.
We're going to have to vote again and for the president, and I'm real happy about that. because I haven't recovered from voting in 1992. When I walked into a voting booth and I saw the words Bill Clinton, George Bush, and H. Ross Perot, and I said, well, where's the lever that says kill me now? I would have felt better in 1992 if instead of voting, I was actually just found masturbating in public.
There have been questions about my email, so I want to address that directly. I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed by the State Department, because I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two.
Naomi Campbell's here. Now, Naomi, you're lucky Hillary Clinton is not here, because if you threw your BlackBerry at her, she would just delete everything right off of it. Hillary Clinton said that she used her private email because she didn't want to use more than 2 devices. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's because it's also one of the rules from the sex contract in 50 Shades of Grey.
I will keep men out of women's sports, okay? Who would even think that you could allow this? Who would say that this is okay? These people are sick. They're deranged. On day one, I will immediately sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children.
As we've gone over plenty of times, it was never about bathrooms or sports. It was a gateway to discrimination.
Donald Trump said that if Hillary Clinton were a man, he didn't think she'd get 5% of the vote. Okay, all right. First of all, if Hillary Clinton were suddenly a man, her biggest problem would be finding a bathroom she'd be allowed to use in North Carolina. Right? That'd be her biggest problem.
Hey everyone, if there are any stories that you want to bring to our attention, whether it is the local level, collegiate level, professional level, national level, that you think would be worthy of a story and us covering, there are so many hours in a day and only so much we see. Submit them to me. Get at me on Twitter, on Instagram, and TikTok. Send me a DM, send me a tweet, what have you. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.
Perform in Cambridge? Cambridge. That's where Harvard is. For a guy like you,
I know that.
That's got to be the Taj Mahal. I love that
I
bugs
hate
you.
Harvard. Are you kidding? Have you heard what's going on college campuses these days?
I don't watch the news.
What you're about to watch is some of the worst BS spewed by Bill Maher and some of the funniest retorts by Bill Burr. Take a look.
You don't realize that college campuses erupted with the kids demonstrating for Hamas? They are in with the terrorists.
They were for the Palestinians.
Well, it's sort of the same cause.
No, it is not. Let's pause here. Conflating all Palestinians with Hamas is like saying there is no difference between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, and saying that they should be paired together. It is a falsehood. And it is pure and unadulterated nonsense.
I'm on the side of the kids.
Yeah, that's easy to say. You know, no one wants to see kids dead. This is a war.
That was very brave of you to say that.
This is a war. No, I'm the one who's actually brave on this.
Pat yourself on the back.
It's easy to say I'm for the kids. Who's not for the kids?
Well,
it comes down to real hard-nosed decisions. Like a country.
Stop talking like you're a general.
A country got attacked. Israel got attacked.
I'm not saying that they didn't have a right to go back. I'm just sitting there going like, how do I look at what...
We're the only country in the world that they get attacked, and then as soon as they counterattack, it's like, well, we got to stop this now. Don't attack them. There's a very simple solution to all this problem in the Middle East. Stop attacking Israel.
Let's pause once more. This argument has been debunked over and over and over again. But also,
most Muslim people in the world do that or condone that? No. But most Muslim people in the world do condone violence.
One reason they don't get exposed is because they're afraid to speak out, because it's the only religion that acts like the mafia that will kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write the wrong book.
Let's understand Maher's history and how he feels about anyone who is Muslim and or in the region, because it's vital to understand this. He generalizes on the subject matter. For Maher and his ilk, the goalposts always move.
Stop attacking Israel.
You just solved it.
I actually
There
did.
you go. That's fantastic.
Anyway,
all right.
we don't need to get onto that.
Let's go to Russia and the Ukraine. How do you solve that one, Bill? Let me hear your hard-nosed decision about that. Well, let me ask you a question. How is war still legal? With all the shit that's been canceled.
Legal.
Why is that still legal?
Would you like a real answer to that? Because for something to be illegal, you have to have the capacity to enforce it. And you can't enforce against war, or else you have to go to war with the country that's going to war. And we don't want to go to war with Russia over Ukraine. What would be the sense of making it illegal? Oh, that's really going to stop Putin. No. To stop people from going to war, you have to also put boots...
Can't sit down and talk it out? Why can't Putin do a podcast with the head guy? Like, you just solved the Middle East on a podcast. Why can't they solve what they're doing on a podcast?
This is why this is not your thing.
Make some hard-nosed decisions. It's not your thing. It's what you...
It is my thing.
It isn't your thing.
This is not your thing.
You're like that guy that has a fantasy football team and thinks he's a GM.
No.
That's exactly what it is. Like, why am I listening to you like you've done something? What have you done in Washington? Nothing.
Just awesome. And now this from HuffPost. The season's stand-up appeared Sunday on Maher's Club Random Pod, when Maher, who uses his weekly HBO show to mock calls for a ceasefire and claim students are demonstrating for Hamas, asked if Barr was on the same side, and of course, he was not. After all, this is the same person in Bill Maher who, in an interview with Katie Couric, would say, I don't think he committed that crime. The he was in reference to Hollywood filmmaker Woody Allen and the accusations that Ronan Farrow brought to light, which really feel highly credible. I need to be very clear about this. Maher also played up the, hey man, we need to be careful here. We can get canceled at any point in time. And Bill Burr responded with, come on, man, that's over. That's done with. And Maher fought him on it. And they would have a back and forth on that as well. Go check out the Club Random Pod on YouTube or Spotify, what have you. But the reason Burr fought it is because he basically said he doesn't believe in it anymore and that it's up. This also goes back to what he said on a 2020 podcast, which is called The Last Laugh Podcast, and saying that outrage culture is one of the most misrepresented things out there. How they will make such a small percentage of people seem like they're 3 million people. We have gone over this previously as well, because famed progressive comedian David Cross, who you have seen in a bevy of shows and has a ton of stand-up specials, has said that this doesn't exist and that no comedian is getting canceled for their work, which I highly recommend you go check out. I believe it was in an interview with Vox. Yet I continue to just internally try and think about the influence that someone like Maher has, the way that he is viewed, and this pathetic word-mouth dribbling BS that he continues to bring each and every week on his show. Each and every year. This has been going on since, gosh, I think his ABC show was in the early 90s, I want to say. So let's say it's been 30 years. 30 years. This is the same man who I understand having the discussion, but does not add a lot of pushback to the Milo Yiannopoulos who he platforms, the Steve Bannons who he platforms, the Ben Shapiros who he platforms. And he is a middle-of-the-road centrist guy. That's what he is at this point. And it also says a lot that he is warming up to a guy like Gavin Newsom, who is also, by every stretch of the amount, like, we are a very right-wing country. There's no doubt about it. But Gavin Newsom is, on the world stage, the epitome of a right-leaning centrist. There are some policies that have been good. It does not make him a progressive. It does not make him a leftist. With this paradigm that we have, which is inherently flawed, he falls on the somewhat left-hand side. But, and I must make this clear, on the world stage, he is right-leaning. And that makes Maher even more right-leaning for the things that he has said, the bigotry that he has spewed, the xenophobia that he continues to spout. It is all incredibly pathetic, and I'm glad somebody like Bill Burr put him in his place. If you can, please do support us here at TYT Sports. Become a channel member. Go to youtube.com/TYT Sports and click the join button, and or go to TYT.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate all the love.
I just want to say, I grew up a Democrat, and I've always been a Democrat until I met this man right here. I'll tell you what.
That is Lawrence Taylor. If you have no idea who Lawrence Taylor is, he is one of, if not the greatest linebackers in NFL history. And speaking of history.
Breaking news right here on MSNBC about the man on your screen. The Hall of Fame New York Giants linebacker Lawrence Taylor has been arrested. We have now learned that he was arrested on rape charges.
Today, Lawrence Taylor left a courtroom after pleading guilty to having sex with an underage prostitute. He's now a registered sex offender, will spend 6 years on probation, but he won't spend any time in jail. She was 16. She claims she should have known it.
He wants to put this behind him. Yes, he did have sexual contact with a woman who he paid to do that with. And he later found out, and he said it in court, she told him he was 19, she was 19 years old. He later found out that wasn't true.
Outside of football, it's been trouble for Taylor. So look, quite the endorsement.
He will not have to worry about nobody in my family ever vote for a Democrat again. Okay.
Let's break down their relationship because it's vital to understand how they have remained so close and probably why Taylor did this.
Check us out, the USFL.
Recall a previous piece we did on the United States Football League.
Trump's ownership of the New Jersey Generals.
Everything that we touched in this city has in fact really worked out, and outside of the city has really worked out.
And how Trump did his usual song and dance, playing up the league. Jeff Pearlman would author Football for a Buck, which recapped the rise and fall of the USFL.
He bought the Generals. They were on sale for $8.5 million. He paid $10 million because he thought there was a bidding war that didn't exist.
In addition, he would dish on how Donald Trump ran this venture straight into the ground.
He gets the Generals. We need to move to fall. We have to move to fall. We need to take on the NFL. Immediately.
Trump would then call a meeting with NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle while he was the owner of the USFL's New Jersey Generals, and it didn't go well for Donald Trump.
In this meeting, he says to Rozelle, I don't care about the USFL. You tell me what I have to do to get an NFL franchise. And Pete Rozelle says to him, as long as I am with the NFL, as long as my heirs are with the NFL, you will never have a team in this league. Because he saw him for what he considered him to be, a con man.
He would sue the NFL for having a monopoly, and
in antitrust cases, that's trebled, so that's $3. Add interest, that's $3.76.
Now, prior to Donald Trump single-handedly destroying the league, he did this.
Donald Trump, accused of once pretending to be his own media spokesperson.
Okay, what's your first name, John? Most of the assets have been consolidated to Mr. Trump.
He pretended to be someone else in order to grab media attention through a fake name. And that name was John Barron. It was all to make Trump seem bright and intelligent and having a really savvy business sense. The thing is, it failed. There was also a time when Trump, in his 30s, would throw massive contracts to the likes of Doug Flutie and Herschel Walker, to name a few. Walker, super supportive of Trump for the years, ran for Senate in the state of Georgia. He would lose. By the way, he doesn't live in Georgia, he lives in Texas. Doug Flutie has been a mainstay at many Trump events as well, participating and going to Mar-a-Lago, yada, yada. Fun fact as well, Donald Trump launched a charm offensive on Flutie and his father, and his deep pockets meant he had no problem giving Flutie the reasonably ridiculous contract he had promised, which was $8.3 million over 6 years, according to the Times, making him the highest paid football player in the country. That's via Mother Jones. Less than 2 months later, in April of 1985, Trump was demanding that other owners with the USFL help pay for parts of Doug Flutie's contract. Quote, when a guy goes out and spends more money than a player is worth, he expects to get partial reimbursement from the other owners, Trump told United Press International. As John Barron, one of the fake underlings Trump invented to talk to the press. He would go on to say, everybody asked Trump to go out and sign Flutie for the good of the league. Obviously, it didn't work. And obviously, it was discovered that Donald Trump was praising Donald Trump. Here's where Lawrence Taylor comes in. Follow along. Identifying himself as the publicist for the team. This was Trump again. Trump, or Barron, called tons of newspapers in the state of New York to inform the mass media that Lawrence Taylor is currently negotiating a contract to jump ship from the Giants to the Generals. The New York Times would then follow in January of 1974 with this report. Lawrence Taylor, ending his silence on a tangled web of negotiations, said today the reason he had made a deal, giving the Generals an option on his future services, was for the security of $1 million loan from Donald Trump, the owner of the team. Taylor accepted the loan as part of a deal obligating him to play for the Generals once his contract with the G-Men would run out, and that was in 1988. Mike Trope, Lawrence Taylor's agent, completed separate negotiations with the Generals and the Giants that enabled LT to buy back the option. At the same time, his contract with the Giants was extended through the 89 season and upgraded considerably. So to put a bow on this, and to be very, very clear of what just transpired, Taylor had refused to comment on the dealings that began when he received the loan from Donald Trump. In exchange, Trump received a 4-year option on Taylor's playing services to begin in 88. The Giants then offered to renegotiate Taylor's contract, but only if he could get out of the deal with Trump. Thus, the linebacker had struck a secret deal with Trump, making $1 million interest-free loan in exchange for agreeing to join the Generals when his contract ran out. But after the Giants extended and upgraded, that's the key, upgraded his deal, he had to repay the $1 million. The interest he'd collected on it, and $750,000 more on top to Trump to agree to return to Taylor's option with the Giants. Trump viewed this as a win for a few different reasons. Number one, he basically swindled about $750,000. Second, he kept his name in the public eye. And many perceived it as, oh my God, he's making so many deals. Oh my God, how outrageous. It's so incredible. Yet I go back to this. LT is going to give him the endorsement because in a way, Donald Trump helped LT get more money and get extended with the New York Giants. They both benefited off of each other's services. And that is why you are seeing LT now repay in the form of an endorsement at a MAGA rally.